Welcome, everybody, to the Grueling Truth Sports Network. I'm Mike Goodpaster. Today, we're going to look at the NBA playoff series first round between the Indiana Pacers and the Milwaukee Bucks. This is 6 seed versus 3 seed. But as we've seen, especially the Eastern Conference, Western Conference, both stacked with quality teams, even into the play-in tournaments, which we saw a little bit of last night. First, if you're going to bet this game, make sure you go to BetMGM, the top sports book for betting on the NBA and the NBA playoffs. Make sure you click on the link in the description down below if you're watching on YouTube. Also, make sure you like, subscribe, and follow us on Twitter at Grueling Truth. All right, guys, the Milwaukee Bucks. They had a crazy season is probably a understatement. Let's just say it's been a really wild ride for the Bucks, who won the NBA Finals in 2021. They fired head coach Mike Budenholzer. They traded veteran guard Jrue Holiday, and both of them helped them win that championship in 2021. They replaced him with first-year head coach Adrian Griffin and perennial all-star Damian Lillard. The results have been kind of hit and miss. They've been dramatic, to say the least. And when you look at this, Griffin feuded with lead assistant Terry Stotts, who quit in training camp. It took 5 games for the coaching staff to abandon its new defensive drop coverage, and it was a staple of Milwaukee's success under Budenholzer. Players publicly and privately criticized every aspect of the organization, from effort to the equipment manager, before the Bucks fired Griffith in favor of Doc Rivers at the end of January. Rivers briefly boosted morale, only for that malaise to creep back into the Milwaukee Bucks. All the while, Milwaukee's defense has cratered year after year, from 2019, when it was a top 5 outfit, or 2021, when it was a top 5 outfit, to today, where it sits at 19th. Lillard and Malik Beasley are simply not ball stoppers. Chris Middleton spent the season on a minutes limit from mounting injuries that have hindered his defensive impact. The veteran depth of Bobby Portis, Jay Crowder, and Pete Connaughton left the Bucks searching for answers, and a deadline trade for 35-year-old Patrick Beverley was a minor defensive repair. Now, Giannis and Brooks Lopez, they can only mask so much when it comes defensively for the Bucks. It's part of the issue to have with the Pacers. The Pacers are the number 2 scoring team in the NBA. Luckily for them, the Pacers' defense is terrible also. The thing that's amazing here, and will tell you how good Giannis is, that Milwaukee managed to stay on top of the standings, largely because of Giannis. He's one of the league's 2 or 3 best players, and Lillard can still do extraordinary things on offense in important moments. This is where we come to the most troubling news for Milwaukee. Giannis has a calf injury. They're expected 2 weeks to possibly, worst case scenario, 2 months to be out. So it hasn't even been a couple of weeks. So is he going to be able to play in this series? When he does, will it be too late? We've already seen the Indiana Pacers are capable of beating the Milwaukee Bucks, even with Giannis. And even with Giannis scored 54 points, which he did and lost one time. Their only win with Giannis was a game where he scored 64 in Milwaukee against the Pacers. When we look at the Pacers were a popular preseason pick to be a possible playoff surprise. Tyrese Halliburton delivered on that promise. He performed like an MVP candidate for the first few months of the season before he got hurt. His playmaking, which included a league-leading 10.9% or 10.9 assists per game, was a rising tide that lifted everyone on Indiana's boat. Now, Halliburton's arrival restored veteran center Miles Turner's faith in Indiana, and nobody on the Pacers has improved more than Aaron Nesmith. He has developed into a legitimate all-around weapon. An offseason trade for Obi Toppin added more bounce to the front court. Second-year guards Benedict Mathurin and Andrew Nembhard navigated sophomore slumps to settle into significant roles for the Pacers. That was until Mathurin's season-ending injury. He had shoulder surgery. He's out. That's a big loss for the Pacers. But still, Indiana remains young and hungry to excel. They are fast. They're fun to watch. They just sometimes forget to play defense. The Pacers performed so well during the season that they pulled the trigger to get Pascal Siakam, who is a second star. Everybody's looking for 3. Pacers got 2 now, and it only cost them Bruce Brown. So a team that figured to be a real threat in the Eastern Conference became less so when Halliburton suffered a mid-January left hamstring injury right after they got Pascal Siakam. Now, his pre-injury numbers were 23.6 points, 12.5 assists. That dipped to 16.8 points, 9.3 assists a night ever since. He has looked like a player in need of a week's break. He just got a week's break. And it did not help Indiana, that they dealt Buddy Hield at the trade deadline. That also tells me that the Pacers don't think they're completely where they need to be right now to win an NBA championship. But make no mistake about it, this team is very dangerous. They're highly entertaining, and they performed well against the Bucks in the regular season this year. And that is very scary if you're a Milwaukee Bucks fan right now, because the Indiana Pacers, the matchup you wanted if you're a Pacer fan, since the Pacers were 4-1 this year against Milwaukee, was probably the Milwaukee Bucks. There's no reason to be afraid of a team that you've beaten 4 out of 5 games. And when we look at those head-to-head matchups, like I said, Indiana won the series 4-1, including an in-season tournament semifinal. That came before both Halliburton's injury and a trade for Siakam. There are still several takeaways that remain. First, Giannis was incredible. He averaged 42.2 points on 68% shooting from the field, 13 rebounds, 5.4 assists. He scored a career-high 64 in Milwaukee's lone victory. He scored 54, which I mentioned before, in a 2-point loss. Now they may not have Giannis. And remember, he averaged 42. 13 and 5, and was 1-4 in those 5 games. Indiana matches up very well with this Milwaukee team. Just as concerning, 3 of the Bucks' 8 fastest-paced games this season were with the Pacers, who ran Milwaukee ragged, scoring 122 points per 100 possessions following the first semifinal loss. The Bucks' frustration boiled over as Portis passionately challenged his coach and teammates about their effort. Even after Milwaukee's lone win against Indiana, Giannis goes off the rails, lost his cool. He berated the Pacers about the game ball from his 64-point night in a weird scene that was emblematic of just a weird season in Milwaukee. Recent champions' only concern with them for themselves should be with teams that are a danger. And Milwaukee acts like the Pacers are a danger. This is a budding rivalry. And this is a game where the real matchup would normally be Giannis against the entire Pacer team. But with Giannis probably being out at least for a couple games, you got to keep an eye on Halliburton and Lillard and how much each will hunt each other during the season. And how Indiana exploits any cross-matching with pace. Neither is a great defender, but Halliburton's length and youth on his side makes him probably a slightly better defender. Nobody defended Halliburton more this season than Beasley for the Bucks, who spent 20 to 24 minutes over 5 games opposite the All-Star point guard. The results were not great for the Bucks. Halliburton still logged 38 points, 13 assists in those minutes as the Pacers scored 118.6 per 100 possessions. When I look at this prediction, I'm going to assume Giannis is not going to play, and if he plays, it'll be 3 or 4 games into the series. I think what we've seen so far is the Indiana Pacers offense. They're attacked, they're fast, they're hungrier than the Milwaukee Bucks right now. The Bucks are without their best defender against a team they could not stop even when Giannis was in the lineup. Beyond Lillard reaching heights he has not consistently climbed this season, or Middleton rediscovering the full range of athleticism that made him a 3-time All-Star, it's hard to imagine a hobbled Milwaukee manufacturing enough points and stops to keep pace with Indiana. Right now on BetMGM, the Milwaukee Bucks are minus 130 to win this series. You can get the Indiana Pacers at plus 110. The first game Sunday night at TNT at 7 o'clock. If you're going to bet the Pacers to win this series, bet it when it's plus 110. You're going to have to bet it now. I think the Pacers win this series in 5 or 6 games. Without Giannis, Indiana is definitely the better team. With Giannis, Indiana causes major matchup concerns for the Milwaukee Bucks. So I would look for the Indiana Pacers to advance out of here. They're a very dangerous team. They're too young to win an NBA championship, I think, and they're too offensively driven with no defense to win an NBA title. But the Indiana Pacers are here as a legitimate contender for the next few years as long as they can keep this group together. All right, guys, take the Pacers in 6. And make sure you check out all of our NBA playoff previews over the next day or two on the Grueling Truth. Make sure you go to Twitter, follow us at Grueling Truth. Go to BetMGM to bet the game. You can click on the link in the description down below in the YouTube video. But for now, I'm Mike Goodpaster. You've been watching and listening to the Grueling Truth, where the legends speak.